The last time Alex stood across the net from Amanda Anisimova, she walked away with a defeat that felt far worse than a normal loss. She had led 2-0 in the deciding set, had the momentum, had the crowd behind her, and still watched the match disappear. Anisimova won the next 6 games and ended Alex's 5-match winning streak against top 10 opponents. Weeks later, under the lights at the US Open, the same matchup carried a completely different weight. This time, Alex was not trying to protect a lead. She was trying to erase a memory. And with thousands of Filipino fans roaring around Arthur Ashe Stadium, the question was no longer whether Alex could beat Anisimova. It was whether she could finally prove that Cincinnati had been a setback, not a ceiling. The Cincinnati defeat had left a scar because of how close Alex had been. The match lasted 2 hours and 28 minutes, stretching deep into a humid Ohio night. Alex took the opening set 6-4, but Anisimova fought back to take the second 6-4. Then came the moment that would replay in Alex's mind. She broke early in the deciding set and moved ahead 2-0. It looked like the match was turning her way. Then, in the 5th game, Alex reached 40-15 and appeared ready to regain control. Instead, 4 straight points vanished. Anisimova escaped, moved ahead 3-2, and suddenly the match belonged to the American. From there, Anisimova closed with 6 consecutive games, winning 16 of the final 19 points. The final score, 4-6, 6-4, 6-2, told the story of a comeback. But it could not explain what that loss would eventually become for Alex. Afterward, Anisimova praised her opponent's fighting spirit and admitted how difficult the battle had been. Alex, meanwhile, refused to turn the defeat into an excuse. She understood something important about momentum. It can build confidence, but it cannot guarantee the next result. That mindset mattered because Alex was no longer the same player who had entered the season still fighting for recognition. In 2026, she had already beaten some of the strongest names in the sport. She had defeated Elena Rybakina. She had beaten other elite opponents, including a victory over Iga Swiatek at Wimbledon and a win over Jessica Pegula in the Washington final. She had reached a career-high world number 18 ranking and become the highest-ranked Southeast Asian woman in tennis history. More importantly, she had learned how to survive the moments that once might have broken her. That is why Cincinnati mattered. Not because it ended her run, but because it gave Alex something she could carry into New York. The pain was fresh. The lesson was even fresher. She had already discovered that being close to the biggest victories was not enough. On the biggest stages, one bad stretch can erase an entire match. One missed opportunity can change everything. And at the US Open, there would be no room for hesitation. When Alex arrived at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, she did not arrive as an unknown prospect hoping for a surprise. She arrived as a career-high number 18 player, the 17th seed in the women's singles draw, and one of the most talked-about players of the summer. Only a little more than a year earlier, her place in major events could not be taken for granted. Now she was walking into the biggest tournament in American tennis with expectations following her everywhere. But there was another force waiting for her in New York, and it had nothing to do with rankings. It was the crowd. The Alex effect had been building for months. In Washington, a huge share of ticket demand came from Alex's supporters. In Toronto, her matches drew enormous crowds. In Cincinnati, ticket prices reportedly rose by 70% and the stadium still sold out. Now that energy had reached Flushing Meadows, where the Filipino community could turn a tennis match into something much larger than a sporting event. 4 fans scattered across the New York metropolitan area and beyond, Alex represented something personal. They arrived carrying Philippine flags, wearing colors that made their support impossible to miss, taking photographs, chanting her name, and finding strangers who felt like family for a few hours. Tennis was happening on the court, but another story was unfolding in the stands. A diaspora was watching one of its own take on the world. That atmosphere had already been noticed by Alex's mixed doubles partner, Felix Auger-Aliassime. He joked that it was funny because Alex was younger than him, yet she seemed to have the fan base and was carrying the crowd. He had seen the phenomenon in Toronto, where the stadium filled for Alex's matches. In New York, the scale was even bigger. And then the draw delivered the matchup everyone wanted. Alex against Anisimova. The ghost of Cincinnati had found its way to New York. For Alex, this was not simply another opponent. It was a chance to answer the one question that had followed her since Ohio. Could she close the door when the pressure was highest? Could she keep her level when an opponent fought back? Could she turn a painful memory into confidence instead of fear? The answer would come on Arthur Ashe Stadium, in front of roughly 23,000 spectators. From the opening exchanges, Alex looked like she understood exactly what was at stake. She did not need to pretend Cincinnati had never happened. She did not need to prove that the loss meant nothing. It meant something. That was precisely why this match mattered. Every aggressive return carried a message. Every long rally tested the patience that had been forged in defeat. Every time Anisimova pushed back, Alex had a choice. Remember how Cincinnati ended, or respond to what was happening right now. And this time, the stage was different. The US Open is where pressure becomes visible. The crowd reacts to every break point. The noise rises with every momentum swing. A player can feel thousands of people willing a ball over the net. For Alex, much of that energy was coming from Filipino supporters who had turned Arthur Ashe into a sea of flags and voices. Anisimova knew exactly what kind of atmosphere she was walking into. She had already experienced the support surrounding Alex in Cincinnati and had acknowledged how loved Alex was. Now she had to face it again, only this time on the biggest court. But the crowd could not hit the ball for Alex. That responsibility belonged entirely to her. This was the part of the story that mattered most. The Alex effect could fill seats. It could create headlines. It could make fans travel thousands of miles. But none of it could win a point. If Alex was going to avenge Cincinnati, she would have to do it with her own racket. And that is exactly what made the results so significant. Alex entered the season with a 7-3 record against top 10 opponents in 2026, a remarkable number for a player who had only recently broken into the sport's upper tier. Cincinnati had stopped a 5-match winning streak against the elite. Anisimova had become the player who exposed the narrowest gap between Alex and another major victory. Now, the rematch gave Alex a chance to close that gap. There was also history hanging over the match. Her Washington title had made her the first Filipino player to win a WTA singles title. Wimbledon had pushed her profile even higher when she defeated defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court and reached the 4th round, becoming the first Filipina to reach the 2nd week of a Grand Slam singles tournament. Her ranking had climbed all the way to number 18. She was no longer simply chasing the established stars. She was beginning to stand among them. Still, the biggest challenge was psychological. Because when a player loses after leading 2-0 in a deciding set, the score can stay in the mind long after the tournament ends. The next time the same opponent appears, every close game can feel familiar. Every 30 point can bring back the memory. Every break opportunity can remind a player of the chance that disappeared. Alex had to break that connection. She had to make Cincinnati irrelevant 1 point at a time. Her own philosophy gave her the answer. She had said that momentum is real, but it does not provide all the answers. Confidence can help, previous matches can help, but nothing guarantees what happens next. That belief is deceptively simple. It means respecting the past without allowing it to control the present. So when the US Open rematch arrived, Alex was not playing for revenge alone. She was playing for proof. Proof that the player who collapsed at the end of that Cincinnati battle was not the player standing under the lights in New York. Proof that her top 10 victories were not a temporary streak. Proof that Washington and Wimbledon had not been isolated flashes. And proof that when the biggest moment arrives, Alex can remain Alex. The stakes were enormous beyond the emotional storyline. The US Open offered a massive prize pool, with the women's singles champion set to receive $5.5 million according to the figures surrounding the tournament. Alex had already secured a substantial payday simply by reaching the singles main draw, but money was not the reason she had come to New York. Her goal was deeper. She wanted to see how far this version of herself could go. That is what made the Cincinnati defeat useful. It had shown her the danger of believing a match was finished before it was actually finished. It had shown her how quickly a 2-game lead could become a deficit. And it had shown her exactly what Anisimova was capable of when given one opening. But it also showed Alex something about herself. She could compete with the top players. She could hurt them. She could lead them. Now she had to learn how to finish them. The US Open rematch became the perfect test. Arthur Ashe was loud. The Filipino support was relentless. The pressure was enormous. And Anisimova was standing on the other side of the net, carrying the confidence of the player who had already beaten Alex once that summer. Yet the old script was gone. This was not Cincinnati. Alex was not trying to defend a 2-0 lead in the deciding set. She was not playing past midnight in humid Ohio. She was not carrying the same uncertainty. She had Washington behind her. She had Wimbledon behind her. She had a career-high ranking behind her. And she had thousands of people reminding her with every cheer that she had already become something much bigger than a ranking number. The match itself became a battle between memory and response. Every time Anisimova tried to impose the same pressure, Alex had the opportunity to answer differently. The American had already proven she could turn a match around. Alex had already proven she could beat elite opponents. Something had to give. And when the final point finally belonged to Alex, the meaning went far beyond the scoreboard. Arthur Ashe erupted. Flags rose. Voices crashed together. A match that had begun with the shadow of Cincinnati ended with Alex standing on the other side of that memory. This was not just a win over a world-class American. It was the completion of a psychological circle. Weeks earlier, Anisimova had taken a match from Alex after trailing in the deciding set. In New York, Alex returned to the same opponent on a stage far larger and refused to let the past dictate the ending. That is what makes a rematch special. The first match tells you what happened. The second one tells you what you learned. And Alex had learned. She had learned that momentum can disappear. She had learned that a lead means nothing until the final point. She had learned that elite opponents do not need many chances. Most importantly, she had learned that a painful defeat does not have to become a permanent weakness. The Cincinnati loss once looked like the end of a 5-match run against top 10 players. In hindsight, it became part of the education that prepared Alex for a much bigger stage. Her rise had already been extraordinary. A player who once needed opportunities simply to enter major events had climbed to number 18. A player representing the Philippines on the international tennis circuit had become a global attraction. A player whose matches could bring Filipino communities together across continents was now playing under the brightest lights in New York. And the most remarkable part is that the crowd was not the only thing getting bigger. The expectations were getting bigger too. Washington proved Alex could win a WTA title. Wimbledon proved she could defeat a defending Grand Slam champion. The top 10 record proved she could repeatedly challenge the elite. And this US Open rematch proved something perhaps even more important. She could respond after being hurt. That quality is difficult to measure in rankings or statistics. It cannot be captured by a seed number. It cannot be bought with prize money. It is built through nights when a player walks off the court knowing she let a match slip away, then returns weeks later with the courage to face the same opponent again. That is what Alex did. She did not erase Cincinnati. She answered it. And the difference matters. Because careers are rarely defined by the matches a player wins easily. They are shaped by the losses that force a player to change. They are shaped by the moments when confidence disappears and has to be rebuilt. They are shaped by the opponents who expose weaknesses and the next opportunity to prove those weaknesses can be overcome. Anisimova had been one of those opponents for Alex. Cincinnati exposed the lesson. New York delivered the response. And the crowd witnessed the payoff. For the Filipino fans in Arthur Ashe Stadium, this was more than a tennis victory. It was another chapter in a story they had watched grow from a national dream into an international phenomenon. They had followed Alex through Washington, Toronto, Cincinnati, Wimbledon, and now New York. They had watched her ranking rise, watched her challenge champions, and watched her become someone whose matches could transform the atmosphere inside a stadium. But the most powerful image was not the crowd. It was Alex, standing there after surviving the opponent who had once taken the match away from her. The player who had once watched a 2-0 deciding set lead disappear had now found a way to write a different ending. And that may be the real turning point in Alex's rise. Not the ranking, not the prize money, not the packed stadiums, not even the list of famous players she has beaten. It is the realization that she can lose a devastating match, carry the lesson forward, meet the same challenge again, and refuse to be defined by what happened before. That is how contenders become stars. That is how stars become something more. And if this summer has taught the tennis world anything, it is that Alex is no longer waiting for the biggest moments to arrive. She is beginning to create them. The ghost of Cincinnati came to New York looking for the same ending. Alex gave it a completely different one. And with the Filipino flags still waving and Arthur Ashe still echoing with her name, the message was impossible to miss. The loss was real. The pain was real. But so was the comeback. Cincinnati belonged to Anisimova. This time, New York belonged to Alex. And if this was only the beginning of what she can do on the biggest stage, the most dangerous question for the rest of the draw is no longer whether Alex belongs here. It is how far she can go now that she knows exactly how to come back.